The obsidian spire of Xylos, crown jewel of the Concordat and seat of galactic governance, pulsed with an unseen thrum of apprehension. Within its highest chamber, a vast, spiraling expanse of fused crystal and shimmering energy, the Grand Council of the United Concordat convened under an aura of profound disquiet. Elder Soren, his multi-jointed limbs trembling almost imperceptibly as they gripped the polished armrests of his ceremonial throne, projected his modulated thought streams across the assembled representatives. His ocular membranes, normally a placid cerulean, flickered with an agitated crimson. "The anomaly persists," he transmitted, his voice, synthesized and amplified, resonating through the chamber's arcane acoustics. "An object of impossible design, maintaining an untenable trajectory within the periphery. Our most advanced deep space observation arrays, normally capable of resolving a particulate nebula at thrice that distance, struggle to define its very contour. It is an affront to our understanding of causality." A wave of murmurs, a cacophony of clicks, hisses, and low vocalizations, swept through the diverse gathering. Representatives from the crystalline T-scar, their facets refracting the chamber's ambient glow, chimed with an almost panicked resonance. The heavy, lumbering Cathar, their sensory glands pulsing with a visible indigo, rumbled their discontent. The lithe, telepathic Scyller, their chitinous plates shivering with unease, projected images of a void-black entity, formless and menacing. This was not the expected outcome of their periodic review of interstellar trade routes. This was an intrusion, a deliberate defilement of the Concordat's meticulously charted and secured borders. For millennia, the Concordat had been the unchallenged beacon of order in this quadrant of the galaxy, its dominion absolute, its technology unsurpassed. To encounter something that defied their foundational sciences was not merely a threat, it was a conceptual violation. Verx, the Concordat's principal strategos, a creature of intricate mechanical augmentation and chillingly precise intellect, projected a detailed, though frustratingly inconclusive holographic representation of the object into the chamber's center. It hung there, a stark obsidian shard against the simulated starfield, its edges impossibly sharp, its surface absorbing all light, reflecting nothing. "It has maintained its course for 3 standard cycles," Verx's modulated voice stated, devoid of emotion, "penetrating 3 successive defensive perimeters without deviation or acknowledgement of our warning transmissions. It has not registered on our active threat assessments, yet its sheer presence triggers protocols previously reserved for rogue celestial events. Its energy signature is an impossibility, a contained singularity, radiating naught but a faint, rhythmic pulse almost like a heartbeat." A high-pitched shriek of alarm emanated from the delegation of the Zetarch insected beings whose entire civilization was built upon rigid adherence to established protocols. "A contained singularity," their primary envoy squealed, appendages flailing. "That is not merely anomalous, it is a violation of the laws of energy conservation. Such a construct would implode or radiate unimaginable destructive force." "Indeed," Soren acknowledged, his voice laced with weariness. "Our most brilliant minds from the Lyran Institute of Theoretical Physics to the Cathar Academy of Quantum Mechanics have convened since its initial detection. Their conclusions are unanimous and profoundly unsettling. Either our understanding of the universe is fundamentally flawed, or this object operates on principles utterly alien to our existence." He paused, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. "And that, esteemed council, is the primary reason for our current state of deliberation. We face an unknown that refuses to conform to any category of threat or even of benign discovery that exists within our vast archives." From a tiered platform reserved for the Concordat's military commanders, General Rixel of the Cathar Guard, a seasoned warrior whose hide bore the scars of 100 skirmishes against rogue empires and pirate factions, flexed his massive forelimbs. His voice was a guttural rumble. "Then we treat it as an existential threat, mobilize the border fleets, initiate an exclusion zone, and if it trespasses further, we dismantle it. Containment failure is not an option." His sentiment was echoed by a chorus of agreement from the military cadre, their species having historically favored decisive, overwhelming force against any perceived encroachment. "And if we cannot dismantle it, General?" interjected Ambassador Lyra of the Scyller, her voice a soothing, yet penetrating telepathic suggestion that subtly quelled the rising martial fervor. Her species, renowned for their diplomatic prowess and deep psychological insights, PR, preferred understanding to brute force. "If its composition truly defies our understanding, what then? Do we risk a full-scale engagement with an entity that exists beyond our comprehension, potentially inviting a retaliatory response of equivalent or even superior incomprehensibility? Soren nodded slowly, his movements deliberate. Ambassador Lyra presents a critical counterpoint. Our current intelligence suggests that any attempt at aggressive action would be, at best, futile and at worst, catastrophic. Our long-range targeting systems cannot lock onto its ephemeral hull. Our energy projections dissipate upon its arrival vector. It has, thus far, made no aggressive moves, nor has it responded to our myriad attempts at establishing communication across all known concordat linguistic matrices. Perhaps, mused Kael'thas, the primary representative of the T-Scar, his voice a series of melodic chimes. It is a probe, a precursor, from a species so vastly superior that our presence is beneath their notice. Or perhaps it is merely a derelict, a fragment of some bygone era, adrift and inert, posing no true threat. His words, while offering a semblance of calm, carried an undercurrent of their species' innate caution, their preference for scientific investigation over impulsive action. A derelict does not penetrate 3 layers of concordat defenses with such unwavering precision, Verx countered, displaying a more granular projection of the object's intricate, almost imperceptible maneuvers. Nor does a derelict maintain a stable, self-contained singularity drive. This object is actively navigated, it is directed, and its trajectory, while seemingly random to our initial analysis, begins to coalesce into a disturbingly familiar pattern. It is approaching the designated rendezvous point for the annual Interstellar Concordat Summit, the convergence of all our Dominion's leadership. A palpable wave of terror rippled through the chamber. The summit was the very heart of Concordat unity, a gathering of the most influential minds and powerful figures from across countless star systems. If this unknown entity were to target such a congregation, the implications were catastrophic, potentially unraveling the very fabric of their galactic civilization. The initial fear of the unknown now sharpened into a cold, existential dread. Its approach path is no longer ambiguous, Soren stated, his voice now imbued with a chilling finality. Our predictive algorithms, though operating on limited data, indicate its arrival at the summit's jump point within 2 standard cycles. We have exhausted all conventional diplomatic and defensive protocols. Therefore, the Grand Council must decide. Do we initiate a preemptive, if potentially futile, military response, risking an escalation with an entity we do not comprehend? Or do we maintain vigilance, uphold our defensive posture, and await its arrival, attempting communication once more at the heart of our most sacred gathering? The weight of his question pressed down upon them, a suffocating silence descending as each species weighed the impossible choice, their internal political anxieties warring with the looming external threat. The Galactic Empire, for the first time in an epoch, was truly and utterly afraid. The unknown, manifested as a single, silent, impossible object, had cast a shadow over their millennia of dominion. The silence stretched, thick with the unvoiced fears of myriad species. Elder Soren observed the fractured light playing across the faces of the delegates, each species grappling with the implications through the lens of their own history and philosophy. The Cathar, driven by a primal urge to protect, yearned for immediate action, their powerful forms quivering with barely contained aggression. The Siller, ever seeking harmony, projected mental pleas for caution, for a deeper understanding before irreversible steps were taken. The T-Scar, rooted in logical deduction, sought more data, more time, even as time itself seemed to betray them. This crisis, unlike any before, lacked a clear antagonist, a defined threat profile, or even a discernible motive. It was a blank slate upon which their collective anxieties were now projected, painted with the dark hues of utter incomprehension. General Rixel's deep growl finally broke the stillness. With all due respect, Elder, waiting for an unknown entity to arrive at our most vulnerable point, at the very nexus of our leadership, is a dereliction of our duty. We project power. We dictate terms. To simply allow this intrusion is to invite chaos, to signal weakness to any potential observer, deploy a screening fleet, not to engage immediately but to establish a physical cordon. Let our presence be undeniable. His argument carried significant weight, rooted in the Concordat's long-standing policy of projecting an unassailable image of strength and control throughout the known galaxy. Any deviation from this post could embolden minor factions, incite rebellion, or attract opportunistic predators from the unregulated fringes of space. Ambassador Lyra countered immediately, her telepathic projection weaving through the military suggestions like a silken thread. And if their intent is benign, general. If this object is merely following a navigational beacon it has no knowledge is sacred to us, or if it is a vessel of exploration, seeking contact. To meet it with a cordon of warships is to initiate conflict where none may exist. We risk turning a potential first contact into a galactic war, simply because our fear dictated our actions. Our history is replete with examples of species annihilating nascent civilizations due to misunderstandings, due to projecting our own fears onto the unknown. Her words evoked a shared, if uncomfortable, memory among the elder species present. The tragic demise of the Zalosian precursors, a technologically advanced but pacifist race, mistakenly eradicated by a nascent Cathar expansion fleet eons ago, a scar on the Concordat's collective conscience. Then how do we communicate with something that refuses to acknowledge our existence? Demanded a Zetarch official, his multifaceted eyes darting nervously. We have broadcasted diplomatic overtures in every language, every mathematical sequence, every artistic pattern known to the Concordat. We have sent pulsed neutrino bursts, gravimetric modulations, quantum-entangled signals. It absorbs them all or simply ignores them. It does not respond. It does not deviate. It simply is. The Zetarch, being a highly communal and networked species, found the concept of a non-communicative, autonomous entity particularly disturbing, akin to a rogue, unprogrammed algorithm threatening their meticulously ordered society. Verx, the principal strategos, once again projected the stark, featureless image of the object. Its stability is absolute. Its energy signature, while inexplicable, is also perfectly contained. There are no emissions, no detectable waste products, no thermal fluctuations indicative of propulsion systems known to us. Our theoretical models suggest that such a vessel would require energy generation orders of magnitude beyond even our most ambitious fusion reactors, yet it registers as cold, inert. It is as if it draws power from a dimension beyond our own, or possesses an efficiency that borders on the impossible. This is not merely an unknown technology, Elder Soren. This is an unknown paradigm. Elder Soren absorbed Verx's analysis, the crimson flickers in his ocular membranes intensifying. A paradigm shift, then, a fundamental challenge to our very perception of reality. If its origins are truly beyond our current understanding, then our conventional responses are likely to be inadequate, if not dangerously counterproductive. He leaned forward, his ancient frame radiating a profound weariness. Yet, inaction is also a decision with its own perilous consequences. If this object is hostile and we meet it with open arms, we invite destruction. If it is peaceful and we meet it with force, we invite eternal regret and perhaps a conflict we are ill-equipped to wage. Kael'thas, the T-Scar representative, chimed softly. Perhaps its lack of communication is not an act of defiance, but an act of difference. What if its primary mode of interaction is not through modulated waves or light, but through a different modality entirely? One we have yet to discern, precisely because our instruments are attuned to our reality, not theirs. His species, known for its deep philosophical traditions, often explored the limits of perception and the subjective nature of reality. Could it be studying us, even now? Our transmissions, our debates, our very fears. This idea that they themselves were the subject of an unseen observation sent another shiver through the chamber. The Concordat had always seen itself as the observer, the cataloger, the arbiter of galactic order. To be observed and seemingly assessed by an entity beyond their comprehension was a deeply unsettling inversion of their established cosmic role. Then what do we do, Kael'thas? Rixel grumbled, his patience wearing thin. Do we simply cease our defensive posture and invite an unknown gaze to penetrate our very strategic heart? Do we stand naked before an intelligence that might view us as nothing more than biological curiosities to be dissected? We observe, we attempt every permutation of communication, yes, but we also prepare, Kael'thas responded, his chimes gaining a firmer, more resolute tone. We deploy a symbolic presence, General Rixel, a visible but non-aggressive fleet, not to threaten but to signify our awareness, our presence, our sovereignty. And we continue to project our diplomatic intentions, but perhaps we refine them. What if this entity does not understand the concept of warning shot? What if their diplomacy is not spoken but shown? What if Hey respond to acts rather than words? Soren weighed the compromise, a visible fleet, but one under strict orders of non-engagement, serving as both a deterrent and a beacon. A delicate balance, but perhaps the only one that could appease the varied factions within the council while maintaining a semblance of concordat dignity. "We shall deploy a diplomatic envoy," Sorin decreed, his voice regaining some of its usual authority. "A single, unarmed concordat vessel, manned by our most skilled linguists and first contact specialists, will accompany the screening fleet. It will approach the object slowly, deliberately, and attempt a direct, visual, and symbolic contact. The fleet will hold position at a respectful, yet strategically sound, distance. No aggressive action is to be taken under any circumstances unless an overt act of hostility is initiated by the object." His decision was met with a mixed reception. The military elements, while still wary, found a degree of satisfaction in the deployment of a fleet, however constrained. The diplomatic and scientific factions found reassurance in the emphasis on first contact protocols. But the underlying tension remained, a palpable current of fear and uncertainty that gripped the entirety of the obsidian spire. As the delegates began to disperse, their internal debates far from concluded, the holographic projection of the silent, obsidian shard remained, hanging like a cosmic guillotine over the heart of the galactic concordat, an impossible enigma poised to shatter their carefully constructed reality. The words of the ancient prophecies, often dismissed as mythical ramblings, now echoed with a chilling clarity. When the veil between paradigms thins, the unchallenged shall know fear. The Galactic Empire, in its unprecedented fear, was about to encounter something it could not conquer, could not comprehend, and perhaps could not even survive. The diplomatic envoy, the vanguard of Xylos, a vessel adorned with the concordat's symbols of peace and knowledge, hung suspended in the void, a beacon against the inky blackness. Its smaller frame was dwarfed by the accompanying screening fleet, whose formidable silhouettes formed a silent, watchful crescent at the periphery of the observation zone. Inside the vanguard's bridge, Ambassador Lyra of the Siller, her chiton shimmering with nervous energy, oversaw the final preparations. Beside her stood Xylo, a young T-Scar linguist, his crystalline structures vibrating with a mixture of apprehension and intellectual curiosity. Elder Sorin's directive had been clear: approach, observe, attempt contact, and under no circumstances initiate aggression. The object, the silent black shard that had thrown the entire concordat into an existential crisis, now loomed closer, its form slowly resolving from an abstract shadow into something of bewildering complexity. It was not merely black, it was a deeper absence of light, a void made solid. As the vanguard crept closer, driven by a blend of trepidation and duty, the alien vessel began to reveal subtle details that only deepened the enigma. There were no visible thrusters, no weapon emplacements, no antennae, no discernible bridge. Its surface, while seemingly smooth, was composed of interlocking, impossibly precise geometric patterns that shifted and reformed with an internal logic utterly alien to concordat engineering. It moved with a silent, fluid grace, a predator ghosting through the darkness, yet its trajectory remained unswervingly fixed on the summit's jump point. "Its energy signature remains stable, Ambassador," Xylo chirped, his voice a series of rapid, almost frantic chimes. "No fluctuations, no power spikes. It is as though its drive system is a fundamental constant rather than a managed output. Our passive gravimetric sensors detect minute distortions around its hull, almost as if it is creating its own localized spacetime bubble. It is defying conventional physics, not merely manipulating them." Lyra focused her multifaceted eyes on the main view screen, where the impossible object dominated the visual field. She projected a wideband telepathic pulse, laced with universal symbols of peace, greeting, and intellectual curiosity, a complex tapestry of thought forms designed to transcend linguistic barriers. There was no response, not a ripple, not an echo. The object remained a bastion of impenetrable silence. "It continues to disregard our overtures," Lyra sighed, a wisp of frustration entering her normally placid mind stream. "Its silence is not merely a lack of response. It is an active negation of our entire communication paradigm. It is as if it exists in a universe where the very concept of dialogue as we understand it is meaningless." Suddenly, a subtle alteration occurred. A section of the object's obsidian surface, near its perceived bow, began to shimmer, not with reflected light, but with an internal luminescence, a faint, ethereal glow that pulsed with a slow, deliberate rhythm. It wasn't a message nor a symbol, but a purely aesthetic display, a cascade of shifting colors that phased from deep violet to a vibrant emerald, then through a spectrum of impossible hues. "What is that?" Xylo chimed, his intellectual curiosity momentarily overcoming his fear. A light show, a territorial display, it doesn't match any known signaling protocol. It is merely beautiful. Lyra's inner thoughts raced. Beautiful. Such an observation was utterly out of place in their strategic analysis. Yet Xylo was correct. It was undeniably captivating, a silent aurora against the cosmic blackness. It seemed to have no functional purpose, no discernible information content, yet it held their attention with an inexplicable power. Perhaps, Lyra murmured, it is a form of communication we are not equipped to perceive, a display of presence rather than a transfer of information. Or perhaps it is merely recognizing our presence, a silent acknowledgement. Then, without warning, the Vanguard's internal sensors shrieked a low, resonant warning. Not a threat, not a weapon lock, but something far more unsettling. Gravimetric fluctuations, Xylo exclaimed, his chimes rising in pitch. Localized temporal distortions around the object. It's opening a portal. No, not a portal, a rift. On the main view screen, where the shimmering colors had been, a section of the object's surface now seemed to fold in on itself, not collapsing, but receding into an impossible, non-Euclidean geometry. It was like watching the fabric of reality tear, then stitch itself back together in a fundamentally different pattern. From within this nascent rift, a new light emerged, not the soft glow of before, but a brilliant, intense white, utterly devoid of warmth or heat, yet profoundly visible. And then it widened, revealing something that made every being on the Vanguard's bridge freeze in a mixture of awe and terror. It was not a weapon, it was not a probe, it was another vessel. This second vessel was dramatically different from the first. Where the first was a shard of impossible black, this was a sculpture of gleaming, pristine white. Its lines were elegant, impossibly slender, tapering to points that seemed to pierce the very fabric of space. It moved with the same impossible silence and grace as the first, but radiated an aura of immense, quiet power. It wasn't an aggressive power, but one of inherent, undeniable capability. Its surface, unlike the first, was almost entirely devoid of features, save for a single, circular viewport near its perceived front, through which nothing could be seen but the deeper void. Another one, Rixel's guttural voice boomed over the comms from the screening fleet, laced with raw disbelief. They possess the capacity to generate additional vessels from within their own hull. This changes everything. How many more can they spawn? The Cathar general's strategic mind, honed by millennia of conventional warfare, struggled to integrate this new, impossible variable. Lyra, however, felt a different sensation. A tremor, not of fear, but of profound wonder, ran through her telepathic consciousness. This was not a hostile act. It was a demonstration. The impossible black vessel had not opened a rift. It had revealed a contained, internal dimension, a pocket of manipulated spacetime from which it could draw forth whatever it desired. And what it had desired to draw forth was not a weapon, but another ship. A pristine, beautiful, silent ship. Then from the new white vessel, a single, incredibly precise beam of energy lanced out. It was not a destructive beam. It was a modulated signal, a torrent of information, hitting the Vanguard's comms array with the gentle precision of a feather. Xylo shrieked, but not in pain, in pure, unadulterated intellectual shock. Ambassador, it's a direct transmission, unencrypted. It's mapping our entire communications spectrum. It's accessing our databases. No, it's not accessing, it's mirroring them. It's translating in real time. Xylo's chimes were now a chaotic symphony of awe. It's speaking in our own languages, Ambassador, all of them, simultaneously. And then, a voice, synthesized perfectly within the Vanguard's bridge, resonated with a clarity and calm that was utterly unnerving. It spoke in the primary diplomatic tongue of the Concordat, a language of flowing gutturals and intricate inflections. Greetings, we are the human exploration fleet. We apologize for any alarm our arrival may have caused. Our vessel, the Stalwart, detected your gravitational distortions and energy signatures from a considerable distance. Our primary mission is observation and first contact. Our stealth capabilities are a necessity for navigating unpredictable cosmic phenomena, not an act of deception. We intended no offense. We have been attempting to establish communication since entering your charted space, but our primary methods appear to differ significantly from your own. We detected your concentrated diplomatic efforts, and so, to facilitate understanding, we chose to deploy a short-range communication vessel, the Pax Nova, specifically designed for rapid linguistic and cultural assimilation. Silence descended upon the Vanguard's bridge, a silence far more profound than any before. The voice, calm, logical, articulate, speaking their own language with effortless precision, utterly contradicted every assumption, every fear, every aggressive instinct the Concordat had entertained. Human, a species unknown, unlisted, unheard of. And their vessels, one of impossible black, one of pristine white, existed beyond the Concordat's technological comprehension. The Galactic Empire had indeed freaked out, and the object they feared was not a warship at all, but an exploration vessel, its capabilities simply a byproduct of its mission: to explore, to observe, to understand. And now they were here, speaking directly, calmly, logically, and with an ethics that shamed the Concordat's initial, fear-driven aggression. The true nature of the unknown had finally begun to unfold, and it was far more profound than any had dared to imagine. Lyra, her multifaceted eyes fixed on the serene, white vessel, felt a profound shift within her. The immediate fear, the raw dread that had gripped the Concordat, began to recede, replaced by an even deeper, more complex emotion: humility. This human exploration fleet had penetrated their most secure territories, observed their internal panic debates, and then, with an almost casual display of power, demonstrated their technological superiority by simply deploying a translator. Not a weapon, but a tool of understanding. Their initial assumptions, their arrogance, their very understanding of galactic power dynamics crumbled in the face of such a calm, ethical reveal. "Identify yourselves?" Lyra projected. Her voice, though still tinged with residual awe, now carried a new undertone of respectful curiosity. "Provide your point of origin, your intentions, and the nature of your extraordinary technology. The Concordat requires a full accounting of this unprecedented encounter." Her words were formal, diplomatic, yet imbued with an urgency that transcended mere protocol. The calm voice from the Pax Nova responded without delay. "We are a species designated human, originating from a small, resource-rich system within a distant arm of this galaxy, far beyond your charted territories. Our intentions, as previously stated, are observation, exploration, and peaceful first contact. We seek knowledge, understanding, and the potential for mutually beneficial exchange with other sentient species. Our technology, while perhaps advanced by your current metrics, is simply a culmination of millennia of dedicated scientific inquiry and a unified focus on sustainable development." A low rumble of disbelief emanated from General Rixel's comms. "Sustainable development? What kind of species develops technology capable of bending spacetime, of generating contained singularities, merely for sustainable development and exploration?" His Cathar mind struggled with the incongruity. To his species, such power was forged for defense, for conquest, for dominion. The idea of wielding such might purely for the sake of knowledge was alien, almost naive. "Our philosophy dictates that true progress is achieved not through dominion, but through understanding," the human voice responded, addressing Rixel's implied skepticism directly, almost as if it had anticipated his thought. "Our contained singularity drive, as you term it, is a highly efficient, closed-loop energy system that allows for sustained interstellar travel with minimal resource expenditure and zero environmental impact on explored systems. Our stealth capabilities are a natural byproduct of operating within manipulated spacetime, a necessary measure to avoid accidental interference with developing civilizations or unforeseen cosmic phenomena. We do not design warships in the conventional sense. Our vessels are built for resilience, autonomy, and the pursuit of knowledge. Any perceived power is a consequence of these design principles, not their primary intent." Lyra processed this. They do not design warships. This was a concept utterly alien to the Concordat, whose entire history was punctuated by conflicts, by the arms race of competing empires. To possess such advanced capabilities, yet to eschew the very concept of overt military aggression, was profoundly unsettling and deeply admirable. It suggested an ethical framework, a level of societal unity, that the Concordat, with its diverse and often fractious member species, had only ever aspired to. "You speak of unpredictable cosmic phenomena," Xylo chimed, his intellectual curiosity surging. "What precisely are you referring to? Our deep space surveys have cataloged all major stellar anomalies within this sector." "A BR." If almost imperceptible pause, then the human voice resumed, its tone still calm, but now with a subtle undercurrent of gravity. "Your cataloging systems are indeed impressive for your current technological stage. However, there are forces at play, energies that predate even the formation of your current stellar empires, which operate on scales and principles that remain largely unobserved by your current instrumentation." It is for interaction with such phenomena that our vessels possess their resilient design. One such anomaly, a fluctuating gravimetric tide, is currently emanating from the coordinates of your interstellar concordat summit. It is precisely what we have been tracking. A collective gasp swept through the Vanguard's bridge. Lyra felt a sudden chill, far colder than the vacuum of space. The humans had not targeted the summit out of malice or even curiosity. They had been tracking an anomaly at the summit's location. The very threat the Concordat had feared was not the humans themselves, but an external cosmic event they had not even detected, and which the humans had been aware of all along. General Rixel's voice boomed again, now laced with a new kind of urgency, devoid of its previous aggression. An anomaly? What kind of anomaly? Our perimeter defenses are designed to detect everything. How could we have missed something so significant? His pride and the Concordat's sense of security was now utterly shattered. It is subtle yet pervasive, the human voice explained. A wave of quantum entanglement fluctuations, radiating from a point deep within the void, interacting with the existing gravimetric fields around the summit's primary stellar body. It creates localized pockets of temporal instability, minor at first, but with a cumulative effect that could destabilize the entire region, potentially rendering the jump point unusable, or worse, causing catastrophic temporal displacement for any vessel attempting passage through it. Our data indicates it has been building for several of your standard cycles, masked by the natural stellar radiation, and is approaching a critical mass within 2 of your cycles, precisely when your summit is scheduled to begin. The implication was staggering. The Concordat had been so consumed by its fear of the unknown, human vessel, so fixated on its own self-preservation and perceived vulnerability, that it had been entirely blind to a far greater, more insidious threat. The humans, whom they had assumed to be invaders, had instead been a silent, unwitting guardian, tracking a cosmic danger the Concordat hadn't even recognized. Lyra's mind reeled. The depth of their misunderstanding, the vast chasm between their assumptions and the cold, calm reality, was almost unbearable. They had projected their own history of conflict, their own limitations, onto a species that operated on an entirely different ethical and technological plane. "What is its origin?" Lyra asked, her voice hushed. "This gravimetric tide, is it natural or artificial?" "Our long-range observations suggest it is an after-effect," the human voice stated. "A residual energy signature from an ancient, localized supernova event. The unique properties of the collapsing star, combined with the subsequent formation of an unusually dense dark matter halo, created a gravitational anomaly that has only now begun to propagate through this region of space. It is a natural phenomenon, but one of immense scale and unpredictable consequences if not mitigated or avoided." "Mitigated?" Rixel interjected, his voice still reeling from the revelation. "How does one mitigate a gravimetric tide emanating from a dark matter halo? Such forces are beyond our capacity to even conceptualize influencing. With careful calibration and the precise application of localized spacetime manipulation, it is possible to create a nullification field," the human voice replied, its tone unwavering. "Our stalwart is equipped with the necessary projectors. We have been monitoring the anomaly for several of your cycles, assessing the optimal moment for intervention. Your concentrated presence at the summit while attracting our attention has also provided a unique opportunity. The combined mass of your vessels, even at a distance, offers a slight gravimetric anchor point, which, when combined with our own technology, could facilitate a more stable nullification field, minimizing collateral temporal distortion." This was the true reveal, the sheer unimaginable depth of human capability. They weren't just technologically advanced. They understood the very fabric of the cosmos at a level that allowed them to correct its imperfections, to mitigate its dangers not with brute force but with elegant, precise manipulation. They were not conquerors, but cosmic engineers, silent stewards of the unpredictable universe. A profound silence filled the Vanguard's bridge, heavy with the weight of revelation. The Concordat in its lawn. History had encountered countless species, fought countless wars, and expanded its dominion across myriad stars. But never before had they met a species that so utterly redefined their understanding of power, purpose, and galactic responsibility. The humans, in their calm, logical, and ethically driven pursuit of knowledge, had unveiled not only their own incredible capabilities, but also the inherent limitations of the Concordat's fear-driven worldview. The initial panic, the paranoia, the strategic wargaming, all of it now seemed utterly petty, almost childish, in the face of such a profound and benevolent reveal. The Galactic Empire had not simply been wrong. It had been catastrophically, profoundly, and ironically saved by its own misjudgment. And the true meaning of humanity in the cosmic tapestry had just begun to unfold, not as a threat, but as a silent, benevolent force capable of bending the very rules of the universe for the greater good. Elder Soren, once again presiding over the Grand Council, felt the full, crushing weight of his species' collective misjudgment. The obsidian spire, though still grand, now felt smaller, its former aura of impregnable power diminished by the stark light of a newly revealed cosmic truth. The holographic projection in the chamber's center now displayed not just the ominous black vessel and its pristine white counterpart, but also the intricate, fluctuating gravimetric tide that threatened the summit. And the human voice, calm and clear, continued its detailed explanation of the phenomenon and its proposed mitigation, now piped directly into the council chamber. The nullification field, the human voice concluded, will create a localized bubble of stable spacetime, allowing your summit vessels to traverse the jump point without incident. The field will then be slowly dispersed, allowing the natural cosmic forces to reassert themselves without causing catastrophic temporal collapse. The operation requires precise coordination, but our vessel is equipped for independent deployment. We merely offer our assistance should it be desired. The implication of independent deployment hung in the air. The humans could do this alone without the Concordat's vessels without their permission. They were not asking for leave. They were offering collaboration, a gesture of respect rather than a plea for permission. The Concordat had mistaken their politeness for weakness, their calm for indifference, their advanced technology for aggressive intent. Elder Soren, Ambassador Lyra transmitted, her voice resonating with a newfound reverence. The humans have offered not only a solution to a crisis we failed to detect, but a profound lesson in perspective. Their technology, born of exploration, now serves as a shield against a natural cosmic danger. Their lack of conventional weaponry is not a deficiency, but a testament to a philosophy that transcends conflict. General Rixel, his massive form unusually subdued, cleared his vocal membranes. Their analysis of the gravimetric tide is disturbingly accurate. Our initial rudimentary readings, dismissed as sensor ghosting, now correlate perfectly with their detailed models. We were blind, Elder, blinded by our own expectations of what a first contact should entail and what power truly represents. The Cathar general, whose life had been dedicated to the pursuit of martial prowess, was wrestling with a paradigm shift of his own. The idea that ultimate strength could lie in benign manipulation rather than destructive force was a profound challenge to his entire worldview. The question remains, then, Elder Soren intoned, his gaze sweeping across the humbled council. Do we accept their assistance? Do we trust a species whose capabilities defy our every scientific principle, whose origins are entirely unknown to our archives, and who have, by their mere presence, revealed the vast chasm of our own ignorance? His question was rhetorical, framed not by genuine doubt, but by the necessity of formalizing a decision that had already in truth been made. There was no alternative. To refuse would be to condemn their summit, their leaders, and their very concept of galactic security to potential ruin. Kael'thas, the T-Scar representative, chimed with a renewed sense of wonder. Their philosophical underpinnings, Elder, are as advanced as their technology. They speak of sustainable development, of understanding, of mutually beneficial exchange. These are not the tenets of conquerors. These are the aspirations of a species that has achieved a level of societal harmony and scientific integration that we can only dream of. Their presence, far from being a threat, might be the greatest opportunity the Concordat has ever faced for true galactic enlightenment. The Council's decision was unanimous, swift, and tinged with a collective sense of profound relief, shame, and awe. The screening fleet was ordered to maintain Presidio, now not as a deterrent, but as a silent, respectful escort. The Vanguard was instructed to relay the Concordat's formal acceptance, its gratitude, and its earnest desire for continued diplomatic engagement. The human voice, upon receiving the Concordat's formal acceptance, responded with its characteristic calm. Understood. We will commence the nullification sequence. Our stalwart will position itself at the optimal coordinates. We request your vessels maintain their current gravimetric output, as their combined mass will contribute to the stability of the field. We will inform you of each phase of the operation. And so the impossible black vessel, the Stalwart, began its ballet of cosmic engineering. It shifted position with an almost imperceptible grace, its deep void black hull absorbing light even as it began to emit faint, rhythmic pulses of what appeared to be pure, unadulterated spacetime distortions. The Pax Nova, the smaller white vessel, continued to hover near the vanguard, a silent, pristine observer. On the main viewscreen of the obsidian spire, the intricate dance of physics unfolded. The gravimetric tide, once an invisible threat, now flared into a shimmering, holographic display as the Stalwart began to influence its flow. Waves of quantum entanglement, once chaotic and dangerous, began to align, to dissipate, to fold back upon themselves as the human vessel exerted its precise, calculated will upon the very fabric of reality. It was not a battle. It was a symphony, a meticulously choreographed manipulation of cosmic forces, demonstrating a mastery that was utterly breathtaking. The Concordat scientists, watching from their monitoring stations, shrieked with a mixture of terror and elation as their instruments registered phenomena they had only ever theorized or dismissed as impossible. Minor temporal anomalies flickered around the Stalwart's hull, then swiftly stabilized. Gravitational fluctuations smoothed out, entropy reversed its course in localized pockets, then returned to equilibrium. The human vessel was not merely projecting a field. It was rewriting the local spacetime for a specific, benevolent purpose, then carefully erasing its own signature to allow the universe to reassert its natural order. Within 2 standard cycles, precisely as the humans had predicted, the gravimetric tide around the summit's jump point had been entirely nullified. The region was stable, calm, ready for the arrival of the Concordat's leadership. The Stalwart, having completed its task, returned to its initial silent position, its black hull once again absorbing all light, becoming an enigma once more. The Pax Nova remained, a sentinel of communication. Lyra transmitted the Concordat's profound gratitude, an outpouring of emotion that far exceeded mere diplomatic protocol. Humans, your assistance has been immeasurable. You have saved our summit, perhaps even the very stability of our sector. We are eternally in your debt. The human voice, after a short, almost thoughtful pause, responded. Gratitude is appreciated, Ambassador. However, our actions were simply a matter of course. We observed a phenomenon, identified a potential hazard, and possessed the means to mitigate it. To act otherwise would be contrary to our core principles of responsible exploration and cosmic stewardship. We simply wish to understand, to learn, and to assist where assistance is needed. This was the final, profound revelation. The humans did not seek reward, nor dominion, nor even recognition in the way the Concordat understood it. Their actions were simply ethical, a deep, unwavering commitment to a universal responsibility that transcended species, politics, or self-interest. The Galactic Empire had indeed freaked out, but the reason was not hostility, but the profound, unsettling encounter with a species that had evolved beyond such concepts, whose power was so absolute that it could afford to be utterly, uncompromisingly benevolent. The immediate crisis averted, the political landscape of the Concordat was irrevocably altered. The initial fear of the unknown had given way to a profound curiosity, a yearning for understanding. The humans were invited, formally and with deepest reverence, to extend their diplomatic presence, to share their knowledge, to teach the Concordat how to see beyond its own limited perspectives. And they accepted, calmly, logically, and without pretension. It was during one of the subsequent, delicate diplomatic exchanges, held aboard the Pax Nova to demonstrate the Concordat's newfound trust, that the larger twist unfurled. Lyra, alongside Elder Soren and General Rixel, stood within the pristine, featureless chamber of the human communication vessel, a space of impossible cleanliness and an almost organic warmth. They spoke not through synthesized voice, but through direct neural interface, a seamless melding of thought and intent that bypassed all linguistic barriers, a technology even more profound than the instantaneous translation. Your species speaks of responsible exploration and cosmic stewardship, Lyra projected, her thoughts clear and direct. Concepts we now aspire to understand more fully. Your perspective on the universe is vast. The human diplomat, a being of surprising fragility compared to the multi-limbed, chitinous, or crystalline Concordat representatives, yet radiating an internal strength that belied its physical form, responded with a complex wave of thought. Our understanding is ever-evolving, Ambassador. The cosmos is infinite in its wonders and its challenges. We have merely learned to listen more closely to its whispers. Whispers, Rixel boomed, his mental projection rumbling with its Cathar inflections. What whispers are these that your people hear and we do not? We have charted thousands of stellar systems, catalogued nebulae, identified rogue celestial bodies. Our sensors are the most advanced in this quadrant. The human diplomat smiled, a subtle, almost imperceptible gesture that conveyed both empathy and a touch of ancient wisdom. Your instruments are indeed remarkable for their focus on the tangible. But the universe speaks in more than just gravimetric shifts and energy signatures. It speaks in patterns, in subtle resonances, in the faint echoes of events that predate even the first star. We have simply learned to perceive these echoes, to understand the deeper harmonies of existence. Then the human shifted, and a new mental projection bloomed within the shared neural space, one that transcended visual or auditory data. It was a sensation, a memory, a profound realization. It was the feeling of a presence, unimaginably ancient, unimaginably vast, stirring in the deepest recesses of the void. Not hostile, not benevolent, but simply awake. For millennia, we have tracked a specific pattern. The human diplomat's thoughts resonated, a faint, repeating signal that permeates the very fabric of spacetime. It is not a transmission, not a message in any conventional sense. It is a resonance, a subtle ripple in the cosmic ocean emanating from beyond the known galactic superclusters. Our stealth and resilience were not developed solely for the local cosmos, but for the potential interaction with this phenomenon. A new image formed in their shared mental space, a colossal megastructure not built of metal or rock, but of intricately woven dark matter and exotic energy, impossibly vast, spanning entire star systems. It was dormant, ancient beyond comprehension, yet now, through the human's perspective, they could sense a faint internal pulse emanating from it, a slow, awakening hum. It was a construct so grand, so utterly alien, that it dwarfed the Concordat's entire galactic empire into insignificance. It was an artifact of a civilization that had played with galaxies as children play with sand. We believe this megastructure and the resonant signal are connected. The human thoughts continued, a final echo of a progenitor race that shaped the early universe, leaving behind a testament to their existence, a cosmic monument. And now, after eons of silence, that monument begins to stir. The gravimetric tide you detected near your summit, a localized, accidental byproduct of this much larger awakening, a mere ripple in a pond that is about to experience a tsunami. The Concordat representatives were stunned into a reverent silence. Their minds, stretched to the breaking point by the reveal of human technology, were now shattered by the sheer, unimaginable scale of this new twist. Their galactic empire, their political struggles, their wars, their very existence, suddenly seemed inconsequential in the face of such ancient, cosmic power. Our purpose, the human concluded, their thoughts now tinged with a profound sense of shared destiny, is to understand this awakening, to ascertain its nature, its purpose, its potential implications for all sentient life in this galaxy and beyond, and perhaps, if the time comes, to communicate with whatever intelligence or automated system stirs within that ancient construct. For this, we believe, will require the combined intellect, the varied perspectives, and the unified ethical framework of every sentient species that can comprehend its scale. And perhaps, Ambassador Lyra, your Concordat, with its immense diversity and its newfound humility, might play a more vital role in this ultimate first contact than you could ever have imagined. The obsidian spire of Xylos, once the symbol of unchallenged dominion, now felt like a fragile shell. The Concordat had freaked out, yes, not because of a warship, but because of the sheer, overwhelming, and benevolent revelation of a species that had transcended the very notion of warfare. And in doing so, humanity had not only saved them from their own ignorance, but had opened their eyes to a universe far grander, far more ancient, and infinitely more mysterious than they had ever dared to conceive. The Galactic Empire was no longer the undisputed master of its corner of the cosmos. It was merely a nascent civilization, humbly learning to listen to the whispers of a universe far older and more profound than itself, guided by the quiet, powerful wisdom of a species that simply chose to explore, to understand, and to preserve. The future, once a predictable expansion, was now an unfathomable frontier, beckoning with both terror and unparalleled wonder. And humanity, the unassuming architects of this cosmic revelation, stood ready to meet it, not with weapons, but with the quiet courage of their intellect and the boundless empathy of their spirit. The true journey had just begun.